Overwatering root rot. Since people first started bringing plants indoors in ancient times, this has been a top plant killer. When you water a plant too much, the water fills all the tiny air pockets in the dirt. This pushes out the oxygen that the roots need to breathe. Without oxygen, the roots drown and die. This creates a perfect wet environment for soil fungi to move in. They feed on the dead tissue, turning the roots into dark, smelly mush. Above ground, the plant leaves turn yellow and the stem wilts. It still matters today because once the roots rot, the plant starves, making careful watering your only real defense. Root rescue protocols. This is the immediate process to save a houseplant drowning in a waterlogged pot. First, pull the plant out of its soggy dirt and wash the roots under the sink. Take clean scissors and snip off any roots that have turned black, mushy, or smell like a swamp. Keep cutting until only firm, light-colored roots remain. Next, put the plant in a fresh pot with dry, airy soil mixed with plenty of perlite. As the roots finally breathe, you will see the drooping leaves slowly perk back up. This intervention matters because it stops deadly fungal spread and gives your plant a second chance. Window glare sunburn. This is when the reflection from a modern window accidentally roasts your yard. Since the 1990s, builders have used energy-efficient double-pane windows. Sometimes, changes in air pressure make the glass bow slightly inward. This creates a concave mirror. When the sun hits it right, the window acts like a giant magnifying glass. It shoots a concentrated beam of light and heat across your lawn. This intense beam easily reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It cooks plant leaves in minutes, permanently destroying the cellular tissue. The leaves turn crisp and brown. It shows how everyday energy solutions can have unintended consequences. Light diffusion setup. This is the process of softening harsh, direct sunlight before it hits your indoor plants. People have used sheer muslin curtains since the 17th century to tame bright windows. Today, you can hang these lightweight fabrics or stick specialized UV filtering film directly to the glass. These barriers simply scatter the sun's intense rays, so the light spreads evenly across the room instead of hitting one spot. As a result, you will see a gentle, glowing wash of light across the leaves instead of brown scorch marks. This still matters because your sensitive plants get the energy they need for photosynthesis without catching a sunburn. Fertilizer salt toxicity. Since the invention of synthetic fertilizers in the early 1900s, we have fed plants by adding concentrated chemical salts to the dirt. Indoors, these salts have nowhere to wash away. They slowly build up inside the potted plant. When the soil becomes too salty, an osmotic effect happens. The heavy salt concentration physically pulls moisture right out of the plant. This invisible chemical buildup burns away delicate root hairs. Above ground, you see the leaves turn brown and crispy at the edges. It matters because watering will not save a plant dehydrating from toxic soil. Soil flushing methods. This is how you wash away built-up salts and leftover fertilizer from your plant's dirt. Since the early days of potted agriculture, growers have known that trapped minerals eventually poison roots. To fix this, you slowly pour a heavy volume of room-temperature distilled water over the soil. Let it drain completely out the bottom, carrying the trapped junk with it. As the clean water pushes through, the crusty white buildup on the topsoil disappears. This simple reset keeps soil chemistry balanced, which is why modern indoor growers still rely on it today. Ignoring micropests. These are tiny sap-sucking insects like spider mites, thrips, and fungus gnats that live under the radar. They usually hitch a ride indoors on clothes or fresh soil. Because indoor gardens stay warm and lack natural predators, they multiply fast. A single female spider mite can lay 20 eggs a day, building a massive army in just over a week. They systematically pierce plant tissue and drain the fluids. Eventually, you see faint yellow speckles, delicate webbing, and sudden wilting. By the time you spot them, the infestation is already severe, proving that the smallest bugs can easily wipe out an entire garden. Biological pest control. Biological pest control is how we get rid of tiny plant bugs without spraying harsh synthetic chemicals. Instead of reaching for a toxic spray, you introduce natural predators like ladybugs or predatory mites right onto your leaves. They crawl around and hunt down pests like aphids step by step. You can also apply horticultural neem oil. It contains a natural compound called azadirachtin that messes with a pest's hormones so it stops eating. Within a few days, the bug population simply crashes. The leaves stay green and healthy, free from bite marks. This approach matters because it keeps your garden thriving safely. No drainage planters. A cache-pot is a decorative container with no holes at the bottom. The French popularized them in the 19th century to hide ugly terracotta pots. But people often plant directly into them. When you water the plant, excess liquid has nowhere to go. It pools at the bottom of the ceramic bowl. Oxygen runs out in the stagnant water and anaerobic bacteria take over. The soil turns into a toxic, swampy sludge. The roots turn mushy and rot, causing the leaves to yellow and drop off. This matters today because a trendy container cannot replace a breathable environment. Proper drainage layering. This is the practice of keeping your plant in a plastic pot with holes, then dropping it into a decorative outer pot. When watering, you take the inner pot out, soak the soil, let it drain, and put it back. For decades, gardeners thought you could just put gravel at the bottom of a sealed pot. That does not work. Physics creates a perched water table pushing saturated soil higher up. The visible effect is soggy earth, yellowing leaves, and rotten roots. Double potting matters because it gives you style while keeping roots healthy. Cold water. Shock. This is what happens when you water sensitive tropical houseplants with ice-cold tap water. Most indoor plants originally come from warm jungle environments where rainfall is usually around 70 degrees. When you pour winter tap water, which can drop to 45 degrees, directly into the pot, it shocks the roots. This sudden temperature drop causes immediate cellular stress and shuts down the plant's ability to absorb moisture. With water uptake restricted, you will notice rapid leaf drop and wilting. Using room temperature water matters because it prevents this damage and keeps plants alive. Thermal water acclimation. This is the simple habit of filling your watering can and letting it sit out overnight before watering your houseplants. Since the early days of keeping indoor plants, gardeners realized that tap water is often a chilly 50 degrees and treated with heavy chlorine to kill bacteria. As the water sits open, it slowly warms to a comfortable 70 degrees, and the trapped chlorine gas evaporates. When you finally pour it, the room temperature water avoids shocking the sensitive roots, preventing droopy, brown-tipped leaves. It remains the absolute easiest, completely free way to protect your plants today. Dormant season repotting. This is the mistake of moving a houseplant into a new pot during its winter resting phase. When daylight drops in late fall, a plant slows its metabolism to survive. If you tear its roots apart during this time, the plant has no energy to heal. The broken roots just sit in cold, wet soil, unable to pull in oxygen or water. You will see the leaves turn yellow and drop as fatal root rot sets in. Timing matters, which is why waiting for active spring growth guarantees your plant actually survives the shock. Seasonal repotting. Timing. Your repotting is about moving a plant when it has the energy to survive the shock. In spring and early summer, longer daylight hours trigger hormones that wake up the roots. When you pull the plant out, trim the tangled roots and add fresh soil, the plant uses its rising metabolic energy to seal the cuts. You will soon see fresh white root tips push into the new dirt, followed by a quick burst of green leaves. Getting this timing right ensures your plants thrive instead of rotting away in cold, dormant soil.